We have written petitions to Congress. And basically the petitions say, yes, Congressman, here's the law. I do not owe an income tax. No income tax, payroll taxes, FICA, Social Security, none. I want to ask you to do your independent research on this. You're the lawmaker. It's your law. If I'm wrong, show me, and I will humbly pay my fair share of taxes. Otherwise, you need to do your job and stop these government renegades deep state.
You're watching Silver News Daily. Subscribe for more.
They told us the IRS was untouchable, that taxes were the price we pay to live in a civilized society. But what if that was a lie? What if the biggest scam wasn't offshore accounts or Wall Street fraud, but the income tax system itself? Right now, over 80 million Americans are walking away from it. Not evading, not hiding, but legally refusing to pay. And if this mass awakening continues, it could dismantle the very foundation of U.S. federal funding. But here's where it gets even crazier. As trust in the dollar collapses and millions stop feeding the machine, a tidal wave of capital is quietly shifting into one asset that represents true freedom: silver. Not gold. Silver. The underdog metal that's gearing up for a breakout like we've never seen. Forget the usual economic cycles. This is different. This is rebellion. This is monetary warfare. And it's setting the stage for silver to detonate past every historical ceiling. Stay with me, because what's unfolding right now could change everything you thought you knew about money, freedom, and the future.
I recognize that in my economics classes, I'm a libertarian. And as an immigrant from Iran, who came here at age 14 in 1977, I joined the Libertarian Party in 1989 as soon as I became an American citizen to do my part in restoring freedom in this great land called America, my new home. So I brought speakers to our Libertarian Party events to educate them. And I heard on a talk radio one time that income tax is voluntary for the people of the 50 states. Now, my major was finance. I knew about economics and finance. In fact, I did financial planning for people in my early 20s. Mutual funds, IRAs, insurance products. And so with the background in finance, when I heard income tax is voluntary, being a libertarian, I said, this is different. I love freedom. I love not giving my money away, keep it for myself. So the curious cat I've always been, I checked it out. Went to a meeting, and that one night, in less than 2 hours, she showed me the law. And I was convinced. I mean, I told her, I'm a libertarian. You don't have to convince me about the righteousness of not being slaves and paying income tax. I want to see the law. And she put on the screen the law. So right there, I had the inspiration that, that's how we get our country and our freedoms back. We don't give our money to the Republicans and Republicrats, the two heads of the same uniparty that's out there. And hey, as a libertarian, financial planner, duh, I'll keep my money for me, and then I can take a portion of that I want to contribute to political campaigns of libertarians to represent the interests and freedoms of we, the American people. So I said, this is it. I found my mission in life is to do what I always love to do, sell and live freedom. So for over 30 years, I've been teaching Americans how to do like me. Do not file or pay any federal income taxes, payroll taxes, corporate taxes. IRS knows me very well. I started Freedom Law School back in 1996.
For over a century, Americans have been conditioned to believe that paying federal income tax is not only mandatory, but patriotic. Schools teach it, employers enforce it, the media parrots it. But according to tax freedom pioneer Peymon Mottahedeh, this belief is built on a lie so entrenched it's become invisible. He claims that 99% of Americans are not legally required to pay federal income tax at all, and never have been. And it's not some vague conspiracy theory. It's rooted in the legal definitions buried deep within the tax code, definitions that separate income from wages, redefine who is a taxpayer, and expose how the IRS has manipulated language to create the illusion of universal obligation. Mottahedeh isn't alone. For decades, researchers, former IRS agents, and whistleblowers have been pointing to the same cracks in the system. They argue that the 16th Amendment was never properly ratified, that the IRS operates outside of constitutional authority, and that the average American working a regular job owes absolutely nothing under the law. But this information has been aggressively suppressed, ridiculed, and in some cases, legally attacked. Why? Because the moment this truth reaches critical mass, the revenue tap for Washington's endless spending spree gets slammed shut. And right now, for the first time in history, that moment might finally be here.
Much misinformation out in the freedom movement. All kind of ridiculous theories like sovereign citizen, state citizen, UCC, revocation of election, you name it, capital letters, straw man, your birth certificate argument, you name it, capital letters, on and on and on. There's garbage is out there. I started with the adhesion theory, garbage con theory, and then being a state citizen stuff. So all that was garbage. That's the big problem. People know there's a problem, but they hear some crazy solution and say, sounds good to me, makes sense. No, do not believe me or the government. Verify the law for yourself. I show you the law from the tax laws and the court cases of the government to verify this is true. So generations are still going to get in trouble for that nonsense. Number two, people like Irvin Schiff went to prison, Peter Schiff's dad, because they did not know the legal procedures to handle themselves in the court system. Irvin Schiff, I tried to help him, refused my help. Sherry Jackson refused my help. Larkin Rose refused my help. I offered him, look, let me help you. They thought they knew it all. They were not open to learning. Me had an attitude of, wait a minute, I'm from Iran. I don't know America. I better stay young and humble back in my 20s and early 30s. Learn, look for and learn from the best guys out there. And I did. And that's how I became the best. So I never had an attitude of, oh, I know it all, just follow me because I'm such a smart guy. No, I stayed humble and learned. And those guys had an attitude of, no, I know better than you. So, and none of my students who came to me clean, stop filing and paying income tax with Freedom Law School first, have ever gone to tax prison since 2001 when I started doing this in an organized way. None of them have their bank account or paycheck levied by the IRS, nor their home or property taken by the IRS. That is my record. So forget about all those people who did it the wrong way. There's obviously a reason why I've been broadcasting this. I'm under criminal investigation right now for over 30 years. There's evidence right there that obviously I'm doing something different than those guys. Number three is the media. The media and your accountants, CPAs, they make money off of you being a slave. They're not going to tell you the truth to you. Come on. They make money on you paying them for tax return filing for you. Your CPA, your accountant, your tax attorney. The media is part of the problem. So right now, fortunately, people are seeing they're being lied to about so many things, and they're open to checking things out for themselves. And everything I say, people can verify for themselves at government's official legal websites, uscode.house.gov, is where laws are published. Okay, so this is the difference that on your cell phone or computer you can verify what I'm saying for yourself quickly. And with our record of winning, there's no risk for you.
It's already happening. Across the country, millions of Americans are refusing to file. They're not waiting for approval. They're not asking for permission. They've seen the evidence, they've done the research, and they're opting out. Quietly, but in staggering numbers, estimates suggest over 80 million people have either stopped paying federal income taxes entirely or never started, and the trend is accelerating. This isn't just about fringe groups or sovereign citizens anymore. It's teachers, veterans, business owners, single moms. Ordinary people who've realized they've been duped into funding a system that no longer serves them. And as this movement grows, it's sending shockwaves through the financial structure. Because what happens when tens of millions withdraw their contribution from a government built entirely on debt and collection? You get stress cracks. First in the IRS itself, which is now overwhelmed and under-resourced. Then in government programs that rely on consistent inflows. And finally in the bond market, where faith in repayment starts to fracture. The unthinkable is becoming reality. Americans are peacefully walking away from a system they no longer trust. And that act alone is powerful enough to trigger a chain reaction through every level of the economy. And yet, this is only the beginning of the fallout.
Look it up. You don't go see it. But the government, what they did, the deep state, they hid the truth in plain sight in here. So I've been on a crusade to tell everybody, you can be free, my friends. All you gotta do is to keep an open mind, be curious like me, eyes to see, ears to hear, and an open mind to think for yourself. As a libertarian, you are an independent thinker for yourself. Do the research on our website, freedomlawschool.org, and you can get rid of IRS deception. That IRS says is monster will eat you alive if you don't file pay income taxes. The accountant, the CPAs, they all scare you. Don't listen to those tax protesters. They get you in prison. You take everything you got. Really? How come they haven't taken nothing from me? How come I'm free? Because what I'm telling you is the truth that you must independently verify for yourself at freedomlawschool.org. You won't be afraid anymore because the deception's gone. And you will no longer be robbed by the IRS, no longer sign those 1040 forms, and no longer put the rope around your neck. Because when you sign that 1040 form, you are saying, I am your slave. I swear, master, this is how much I made that I have a duty to follow and pay you, master, under oath. Please go easy on me. Don't check on me. Do not audit me. You will no longer have to put yourself through that humiliation process and give him any money, and you'll be free.
The U.S. government runs on borrowed time and borrowed money. And when that revenue stream starts drying up, the cracks become impossible to hide. As tens of millions refuse to fund the federal machine, deficits balloon, debt ceilings become meaningless, and investor confidence starts to evaporate. Already, we're seeing the tremors, rising yields on treasury bonds, growing concerns from foreign creditors, and desperate new funding measures quietly rolled out to plug the holes. But you can't patch a dam when the entire wall is collapsing. And what's truly dangerous isn't just the loss of tax revenue, it's the psychological shift happening beneath it. The belief in the legitimacy of the system is breaking down. If the IRS can no longer enforce compliance because the public simply no longer believes it owes anything, then its authority evaporates. And once that illusion shatters, the currency it protects starts unraveling too. Every dollar the government prints becomes a vote of confidence in a structure that's rotting from within. As trust erodes, people seek alternatives, not in banks, not in bonds, but in real, tangible assets. And one metal in particular is emerging as the escape hatch for this entire unraveling system. Not just a hedge, but a symbol of the rebellion itself.
Same way, under the Constitution that calls for, and Thomas Jefferson, our best president, second president, said, by the time it was done, there was no internal taxes. It was only tax on imports and sale of lands, Western lands. So the federal government could eliminate all internal taxes, go back to tax on imports. And by the way, they could tax immigrants for the privilege of coming to America. And they could say you could be a permanent resident for 5 years or 20 years or whatever time period. That is your entry fee. And Americans who are here, don't pay it. You become a U.S. citizen after 5 years, 20 years, whatever time frame, and your children will be free. We could fund the government that way from foreigners who want to come to America, the greatest country on earth ever existed. The only country where the founding documents and the laws recognize that your rights do not come from government. We have zero constitutional rights. Our rights we are born with, given by our Creator. And that's in our system of laws. So yes, I think foreigners, they pay that price, and Americans will be free, and America will be great because America will be free again. And that can be done tomorrow if Donald Trump hears about this. He can enforce a law as it's written right now and say, no more income taxes, no more payroll taxes, no more withholding because I'm enforcing the law as it is written right now. But he doesn't know that. Up among the states. And it did that back in late 1700s, early 1800s. But it was too cumbersome. So back in 1913, when the international banksters wanted to create the Federal Reserve privately owned cartel, and they wanted to charge, the government was going to pay them 6% interest with gold, 6% by law to bankers. They didn't want that problem of not having money to be paid the bankers. So they wanted to get around the states and get the American people robbed directly without having to go through the states issue. So they used deception instead. That's what they wrote the law this way. And they cannot change the law. They would have to change the Constitution, which requires 3/4 of the states to prove that change in the Constitution, which of course they can never do. If they attempt to do it, it would be an admission of the fraud they've done to American people since 1913 when they started the modern day income tax slavery.
Just before we get going, we just launched the official Silver News Daily Telegram. To kick things off, we're running a 10-ounce silver giveaway. Yes, real physical silver, not a voucher, not digital credits, actual bullion. This Telegram will be our new home for real-time silver discussions, market insights, collection picks, and everything precious metals. It's where the community truly comes alive. Here's how to enter the 10-ounce silver giveaway. Be subscribed to Silver News Daily on YouTube. Turn on the notification bell. Comment 10-ounce giveaway on 3 separate videos. Be an active member of the Telegram group and say hi. Once we hit 500 active Telegram members, we'll pick one lucky winner to receive 10 ounces of silver shipped directly to you. So get in early, stay active.
Definitions. Just like the corona hoax vaccine is not actually technically in medical literature a vaccine. It's an mRNA gene therapy. Your audience knows that. But who reads the medical journals? You see? So it's not me saying it, it's them saying it right there. Now, what I do say is this. You and I, all of us, are U.S. citizens and state citizens and U.S. nationals for nationality and immigration purposes. I'm naturalized American U.S. citizen. You are a natural-born U.S. citizen. But for tax purposes, the term United States does not refer to the 50 states. It's Washington, D.C. And they had to write the law that way because the U.S. Constitution was meant to protect the freedom of the people of the 50 states. The Founding Fathers severely restricted the federal government from taxing Americans in the states directly. So to get around that, what they did, they wrote the law applying to only Washington, D.C. and its territories, back in 1913. That's all in his brochures I got, and you see it all for yourself and on our website, freedommoscow.org. They define the United States as only D.C. and territories. Why? Because Washington, D.C. was meant to be the land where the federal government would have its military to protect the new states from being taken back by England by military power. They said you can do whatever you want in that military headquarters and other military lands you may get from states to protect America, the states, from England trying to take us back. Do whatever you want in that land. Any rules and regulations, the regular Constitution does not apply to you. So they can tax in D.C. and territories any way they want, and that's what they've done. They made you, however, believe, deceive you to on your own, assume United States means the 50 states, because usually it does. But in tax law, it does not mean that.
Silver is becoming more than just a commodity. It's turning into the ultimate protest asset. When people lose faith in fiat currency, in government promises, in the very idea that the system works, they look for something real. And silver answers that call. It's outside the banks, beyond the reach of digital surveillance, and immune to the games of central planners. But it's not just its tangibility that's attracting a flood of attention. It's what silver represents: sovereignty, freedom, and a vote against financial tyranny. Unlike gold, which has been hoarded by central banks for decades, silver has always belonged to the people. It's spendable, practical, and far more accessible. That's why in times of political chaos, silver doesn't just rise, it explodes. And right now, as 80 million Americans pull the plug on income tax, silver is being positioned as the alternative to both the collapsing dollar and the collapsing trust that supports it. This isn't just about price action, it's about symbolism. In the eyes of a growing number of Americans, silver isn't a speculative asset anymore. It's a form of financial resistance. And that resistance is gaining momentum just as the market fundamentals align for something truly historic.
Is not only not safe, it's actually dangerous and killing people. More people, a New American just came out and said that the numbers are there. More people died of COVID jab than World War I, II, and Vietnam War combined. So once you recognize that, you've been lied, here's what you do. You stop. You stop getting the jabs. You stop signing 1040 forms. And the IRS will not even notice. They want you to think, oh, David stopped filing tax return. Guys, somebody come after David. Yeah, Joanne or Robert, Dave stopped filing. Get a committee. Go get that guy. That's not how it works. That's the myth. The media and the accountancy paid tax attorneys who make money by you paying them to be a slave, they put in your brain. It's all lies. You give them no confession, guess what? You just joined 80 plus million Americans who do not file a 1040 form according to IRS's best estimates. And they have to leave you alone. Because now they have to make a case against you, give you the chance to go to tax court and challenge it in the tax before the judge, and they have only about 20 judges, tax court judges. They cannot physically come after 80 million Americans. So leave non-filers alone, and they focus on some filers because they're easy target to say, prove that deduction, prove that expense, prove that credits. And you say, what? My accountant? I relied on him. And the accountant says, well, it's a big bad IRS, you know. Sorry about that. But he's the one that got you in trouble to begin with by signing the 1040 form under oath.
Silver's already on the move, but the mainstream hasn't caught on yet. As of early November 2025, the price hovers just under $48 an ounce, nearly 60% higher than it was just 2 years ago. But that number barely scratches the surface. Analysts who were once mocked for calling $50 silver are now quietly raising their targets to $100, even $500, as technical breakouts signal the beginning of a multi-year supercycle. This isn't just a bounce, it's a structural shift. The suppression mechanisms that kept silver subdued for decades are unraveling under the weight of real demand and systemic pressure. What's fueling this surge isn't Reddit hype or meme stock mania. It's institutions. Hedge funds and large private investors are quietly amassing positions, exploiting the growing disconnect between spot prices and real-world premiums. At the same time, silver shortages are becoming more visible in the retail market, with delays and premiums widening month by month. And the technical charts? They're flashing bullish signals not seen since the 2011 run. Each resistance level is being broken with higher volume, stronger conviction, and less pullback. We're not just watching a rally, we're witnessing the opening act of a silver explosion that could turn the entire financial world upside down.
We've been brainwashed to trust the governments, to trust the system in America. I came from Iran, and the government of Iran, Shah the King, and his Secret Service, for criticizing the government, could kidnap you, you disappear for weeks and torture you, and put you in jail for who knows how long. So I had a natural mistrust of government authority. But most Americans have been brought up to be like, oh no, not my government. America's not like other countries. Or they become what I call chicken libertarians. Dave Nolan, the co-founder of the Libertarian Party, was in Orange County, California, chapter of Libertarian Party. I was with him. Sadly, he was a chicken libertarian. They forced me out of the leadership of the party because he was afraid I'll get people in trouble, this tax protest stuff. I said, look, just listen and learn. The problem is we've been so brainwashed to be afraid of the IRS that we just don't even look at it. I offer the brochure for you. Look at this, our other brochure, okay, about this, okay? Read us. Fast track your success. At the same time, restore freedom. Just look at it. You can think, don't have to do it. Don't do it until you are convinced and you know you and your family and your property and your freedom will be safe. But the biggest problem is we've been brainwashed to be afraid, to be docile. And some people say, oh, well, they're so corrupt. There's nothing you can do. They're going to get you no matter what you do because the government is so powerful and evil. That's the other mentality of chicken libertarians. Well, I am the founding father type libertarian. I believe freedom is not free. Nothing in life is free. You want to be free? You got the minimum. Take the time to educate and empower yourself and then take action. That's why, for example, gold and silver and crypto. People doing that. Why? Because they see our money, the bank, government money is worthless. It's going to keep going down and down and down. They educated themselves about why real money like gold and silver are going to long-term keep up with the inflation caused by the government bank phony money. So it's the same process. Imagine not knowing about these issues 30 years ago. Now you know better. Now you buy gold and silver. Same thing here. Just take the time to educate yourself. If American people do that as a whole, the whole system will collapse, just like the Soviet Union collapsed from within. When the masses recognized that the KGB, the Secret Service of Soviets, was not so powerful, when Americans recognized IRS is a failing, communist, worthless, incompetent agency that you don't need to be afraid of if you don't file those 1040 forms anymore. The thing is, they deceive us every year, especially rich people, to put the rope around our neck.
But it's not just monetary chaos fueling silver's breakout. It's industrial demand on a scale the market has never seen before. In 2024 alone, industrial consumption hit a record-breaking 680.5 million ounces, accounting for nearly 60% of all global silver use. That's a monumental shift. A decade ago, industrial demand made up just half of the market. Now, with the explosion of solar, electric vehicles, AI infrastructure, and medical tech, silver has transformed from a monetary hedge into a critical material for the modern economy. The solar sector is devouring silver at a historic pace, driven by government mandates and global green energy goals. EVs are rolling out faster than supply chains can keep up, and every one of them needs silver for batteries, charging stations, and circuitry. AI data centers, 5G towers, robotics, none of it functions without silver's unmatched conductivity. And unlike other metals, there are no scalable substitutes. This isn't a passing trend. It's a one-way demand surge. And as more industries compete for a shrinking supply, silver's role as an irreplaceable industrial metal adds a new layer of urgency to its price trajectory. The pressure is building from both ends, investors rushing in for protection and manufacturers scrambling for supply. Something has to give.
Thing was, you filed a 1040 income tax confession form with the IRS. You said, hi, here I am, a good slave every year. You want to pick on me? And they picked on you as you left it open to them to do so. There's over 80 million Americans who do not file, and their income is above the minimum exempt amount, according to the IRS itself. They don't even have the exact number. So you don't file 1040 form, you fall off the radar. And it does not matter that your boss sent a W-2 form about what you made to the IRS. It does not matter if a third party sent a 1099 or K-1 form to the IRS saying they paid you this much money. The IRS doesn't use those forms. They really don't. They're so incompetent, running still on 1960s COBOL assembly language computer programs that they cannot even keep up with filers. So non-filers are wholesale left alone. All that is verified. You can see it on freedomlawschool.org from government's own official.
The problem is, the supply side can't keep up. Even with a modest 4.1% rebound in global mining output, pushing production to around 916 million ounces in 2024, it's still not enough to close the gap. The structural deficit remains, and it's only getting wider. For years, silver supply has lagged behind demand, drawing down above-ground reserves and pushing refiners and bullion dealers to the brink. Major mines in Mexico, the US, and China are ramping up, but those gains are temporary. Experts warn that by the end of the decade, production will begin to decline, not increase, meaning the shortfall will only become more severe. This is why the recent price surge isn't speculative, it's structural. Every new solar panel, every EV on the road, every AI server coming online is pulling more silver out of a supply pool that simply cannot regenerate fast enough. And unlike gold, where recycling and central bank vaults can buffer tight markets, silver is consumed. It gets used, it gets lost, and it doesn't come back. That's what makes this situation so explosive. When you combine relentless industrial consumption with a growing army of freedom-focused investors, all pulling from the same shrinking stockpile, it creates a pressure cooker with only one possible outcome: a price eruption the market is completely unprepared for.
I've been under criminal investigation by the IRS for over 30 years. Other investigations, civil investigations, I beat them in court. Okay, beat them in IRS administrative hearings. And here I am. IRS knows me very well. Why don't they simply put me in prison for not filing and paying income taxes? Because they know I discovered why. I found out why 99% of Americans by law, as written on government's own official legal websites, are not required to file and pay income taxes. The IRS's own 1040 form and instructions, laws as published by Congress, U.S. Treasury regulations, and U.S. Supreme Court decisions are the only things I rely for this thing. And that is in our Restore Freedom brochure. I mail to anybody for free. It's online for free on our website to download, view, or share at freedomlawschool.org. So the reason I'm not in prison is because there is no law requiring the people of the 50 states to file and pay federal income taxes. However, citizens and residents of Washington, D.C., they have to pay federal income taxes. In tax law, they define the word United States to mean Washington, D.C., not the 50 states that we normally think. And that's all hidden in this Interregnum Code book, the Bible of the IRS. They hid the definitions. They did not put in the front page of this 10,000 plus page of gobbledygook that no accountant, no CPA, tax attorney understands. They didn't put it at the very end either. They hit it toward the end at section 7,700. So you don't go.
While the average investor is distracted by inflation headlines and crypto cycles, the real moves are happening in silence. Institutions are accumulating silver at a pace that would have triggered panic buying just a few years ago. On the COMEX, managed money net long positions reached 153 million ounces by the end of 2024, levels not seen in over half a decade. This isn't noise. It's calculated accumulation by players who understand what's coming. They're not chasing headlines. They're front-running a structural shortage and a historic monetary pivot. And it's not just futures. Physical silver is being bought off-market, in bulk, with premiums climbing even when spot prices drift sideways. ETFs are holding steady, but large traders are taking delivery, bypassing paper claims entirely. The message is clear. Smart money wants control of the metal, not exposure to the idea of it. Meanwhile, retail investors, burned by meme stocks and distracted by digital speculation, have mostly stepped aside. And that's exactly how the institutions like it. Because once the public starts waking up, once the headlines start screaming about silver's breakout, the real supply will already be locked down. By the time the average investor tries to act, it may already be too late. The quiet accumulation happening right now is setting the stage for silver's most aggressive run in modern history. And almost no one is paying attention. What we're witnessing isn't just a market cycle, it's a full-blown monetary revolution. As the IRS loses its grip and tens of millions of Americans walk away from the tax system, trust in fiat currency is disintegrating. The pillars that once held the financial world together, compliance, faith, stability, are crumbling. And in their place, a new foundation is being laid. One built not on paper promises, but on tangible assets, on scarcity, on freedom. And silver sits at the center of it all. This isn't about silver hitting $50. That's inevitable. This is about what comes after. When the market wakes up to the fact that silver isn't just a precious metal, it's a parallel currency, a decentralized, untouchable store of value for a generation losing faith in everything else. The mass exodus from income tax isn't a fringe movement. It's the symptom of a deeper awakening. And that awakening is what's driving silver to levels no one thought possible. We're not just entering a bull market. We're entering a new financial paradigm, one where silver becomes the lifeboat for those ready to exit the system and ride the wave of history in the making. If you want to stay ahead of the financial reset, make sure to subscribe for more. And remember, this is not financial advice. Always do your own research and speak to a licensed professional before making investment decisions.